Welcome, everyone. That's episode number 2 of an episode. And I guess we wanted to have one more. And my esteemed colleague and dear friend, Angelo Robles, will be joined me on this. I would say it's a very interesting topic today, what we have picked up. And the discussion today is Angelo have mentioned this in many of his a podcast and YouTube series as well, is just the topic and the branding, if you want, just of a sovereign family. And before we jump in, welcome, Angelo. And it's my honor and it's my great pleasure to have you once again in the talk.
Thank you, Jan. It's great to be a part of the series that we're doing. I hope the audience enjoys it. We're going deep in certain subjects, and you're a wonderful moderator and leader. I look forward to your questions.
Right. So let's jump in, and I will start with a very interesting observation. I call it just the core reality. And what I call the core reality is the irresistible gap. And what I mean by this is just every family around the globe is just they're standing between what they have created and the question maybe what they want to sustain. And it is just a gap often. And I call it just an irresistible gap. And many families starting in a discussion, some families come to a conclusion what will be the best strategy to face these or to close these gaps. And there is, from my point of view, a main driving force, and that is the geopolitical environment, what we are living in Europe, in Asia, in the States. There are a lot of uncertainties around businesses, societies, also families. And that brings me just to my first question. And I'm very curious about what's your observation and perspective on, Angela, is these geopolitical environment, these pressure, these uncertainties, could be as a main driver for a lot of families to become a sovereign family, maybe a new dynasty on a new edge, could be this a very powerful driver for change.
Yes, Jan. Most families in their family offices believe, because of their wealth and their past successes, that they have time. I don't think they do. The world that was around when they created their wealth no longer resembles the one that we're in. Inflation, bad monetary policy, global wars, AI, which is one we're going to circle back to specifically on that question, relating to sovereign risk, kind of almost information warfare. These aren't just headlines. We are living in trying times. The times that we're in now, relative to the rise of AI, and I remind the audience, ChatGPT is, as we're doing this live, late October, is not even 3 years old. Not even 3 years old. And look how much better it's gotten. Look at the competition. Now, your question on geopolitics is one that many people in the family office world, as thought leaders, either are somewhat ignorant to or don't choose to have a voice. There's many things I'm ignorant to. I just don't have the knowledge. But understanding you don't having it, admitting it, or acquiring it shows something. Geopolitics is one that I've always been interested in, and I'm never short for speaking my mind, even if my opinion, some would argue, happens to be wrong. And at the end of the day, I've been right and I've been wrong, like many of us. What I will state is every year, I think in May and June, UBS and many other big banks, speaking of European institutions, come out with surveys in terms of what the families are concerned about. No surprise to me, I believe for 2 years running, geopolitical risk is number one. Yet I don't hear other people really talking about it. In programs that I've been on, Jan, I'm not so sure that maybe you're the only one this year. And not only do I have some level of fluidity in it, apparently it's the number one concern of the super rich and family offices. Now, inflation and other subjects are also very important. But geopolitics, the subjects that I noted, wars going on around the world, how many countries have nuclear weapons? We're coming off a virus a couple of years ago in COVID. Imagine if that was 5, 10, or 20x more volatile, more dangerous. And I mentioned AI. Really, again, ChatGPT, not even 3 years old. There is no question there's a Cold War between the US and China. No question there's challenges in the West. I look at my own country, America. We have significant political divide, significant. We have debt that is 38 trillion. We have a deficit of $2 trillion every year. We're adding to our deficit, our debt. We have problems. Now, the US is geographically greatly positioned, has massive amounts of natural resources, is not relatively, per our size, overpopulated, is on the forefront of technology, VC, AI, has wonderful water rights, mineral rights, opportunities, farmland, certain things that Europe, relative to perhaps energy and water and natural resources, and it's unfair for me to lump Europe, which is multiple countries, to one broad term, but for now we'll go with it and maybe we'll drill down. Europe faces graver challenges. Sometimes when I go there, and I love it, but it does feel a little like a museum. It does feel a little bit like I'm going into the past. And a sense of a unifying morality, a sense of a unifying culture appears to be slipping in multiple countries. They have grave challenges with population, meaning an aging population, and many challenges from, to some degree, a lack of resources. They're closer to Russia, that's more in their backyard, and feeling that threat. There's a variety of factors. And one of them, and I'll stop, Jan, how many companies coming out of Europe in the last 50 years have made it newer? The last 50 years, it's not that new, into the Fortune 500, the 500 largest companies. Very, very few. Actually, I think the number's zero. Now, if Stripe goes public and other companies, yes, that will change that. What I'm trying to say is innovation and what I would define, which is important to me, freedom of speech, is becoming more challenged in Europe. We're seeing the huge rise in Asia. I'm not so sure that in many ways China's not ahead of the US, but it does seem to be when I look at it from a global perspective, and I do travel the world, and there's somewhat as a rise in the Middle East as well. But it does seem to feel like it's the US versus China, and others may feel that they're almost pawns to whatever winner or co-winners among those two that may be. And I'm not so sure that they're not incorrect in feeling that way. And AI is only going to make this much more challenging moving forward.
I absolutely with you, Angelo, and I would like add just my perspective on this, and it is just I have a clear position that these geopolitical uncertainties will be the driving force for these new generation of families to become in sovereign family as a resilient powerhouse, that they're maybe take advantage of these geopolitical uncertainties in regards or to these traditional families. They are often just very unflexible or very stuck. And that could be just in divide on the table on which families are sitting, that there are a new table is just building up of these new kind of or type of families. They are very, very aware of that. To become a sovereign family is their maybe only pathway into survive as a family over generations. Otherwise, entropy will be come onto the table, and they will disappear uh, um, over the next two or third or three generations. And the question is just, and I would like to hear, what is your description on a sovereign family? Is it just like that you are, say, a sovereign family is just like a very strong country, very resilient, with a clear strategy, with a clear vision, but also to adapting all these new tools and technologies what are available for us, but also for them as a family. Can you give me just, and also the audience, what is your description of a sovereign family?
Sure. And I'm going to segue into it by doing a little bit of a mini part B to the first question you asked, and
Yes.
then how it does segue in. I mean, we're seeing this even locally in New York City politics with a new mayor coming in who's a socialist.
Yes.
There's lots of that in Europe. So I ask, what does a government actually produce of value? They have guardrails. They protect their borders, wink, wink. They protect their citizens. They provide whatever military and police, understood. But it's entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs build, they have dreams, they build companies, they take risk, they're resilient, they grow, they hire people, they support families and communities. And to drive them off with higher taxation, with increases in crime and challenges in their country, what good is that? Who are you going to tax if the top 5 or 10% of the ultra wealthy who pay the vast majority of the taxes leave? And they look, in the US, we're a little more limited because unless we denounce our citizenship or we get state arbitrage, we're beholden to our tax system. In most other countries, you have a little bit more freedom where money's earned, where you live. There's more fluidity and creative tax capability. But the big picture that I'm stating is iconic countries in Europe, the UK, Germany, France, they're they're losing much of this. Other people have options to go to other countries in Europe that are more flexible, to go to the UAE, to potentially even look at the US and feel it's going to be a better opportunity. When you have smart people that are driving forces of entrepreneurship that create value and they go somewhere else, what are you left with? You're going to have destruction. And socialism has always, over time, proven that. Some of you are going to bring up Norway and parts of Scandinavia. Not bad to bring it up. I understand. Los Angeles has what, 15, 20 million people in its proper area. One city in the US. Norway's got what, like 5 million people. It's small, it's homogenous. It happens to be a country that has unique oil and energy, very unique. But I would ask, what does that future look like? How is it going to look in 20 or 30 years? I mentioned certain things feeling like a museum earlier. Now, a little more directly to your question, sovereign means, to me, anti-fragility in the family. What is the wealth for? Capacity and capability, intent and purpose. Understanding that, we spoke last week about being very careful of top-down governance, although initially, especially if the unit is small and children young, that's almost always the initial default. But adapting to more bottoms up, to being responsible for the true education, which you're probably not getting, especially what we call K through 12 before going into secondary school. And we won't even get to the politics of many of that on how many of them come out. Is that even going to be needed moving forward in more of an AI learning world where AI could really be impactful in a positive way to education? So then that word sovereign implies not just the internal mindset and framework that I described, but what I hinted at when I opened up by going backwards in your question, where do I live? Where are our resources? And then you have to face reality. Things can go wrong, inevitably around the world in a long enough time horizon outside of maybe the US, but maybe that's not a long enough time horizon yet.
Yeah.
Things do go south. Governments have the ultimate power. Bad monetary policy, runaway inflation, taxation. They control the military, the police effectively. Like if they really want you, they're going to get you. So where are you domiciled? How do you structure your trust in companies? Do you have external resources in other, maybe let's go with the word not as correlated jurisdictions? Do I have fluidity on business interest and passports? We underestimate that also your connections to people of influence in parts of Europe, the US, Caribbean, United Arab Emirates, Asia, having that optionality to move if you need to. Now, this could come back to a little bit of a discussion about global business interest, banking, owning physical gold, directly owning, not necessarily through an ETF or other, but Bitcoin. And that provides a level of more sovereignty. The greatest value that parents and grandparents pass down is actually less so money. It's more so knowledge, mindset, and connections. I go back to that word. Uh, in the movie John Wick, a couple of movies in the series with Keanu Reeves, is it? I'm sorry if I messed it up. I love his work. There's a sanctuary city or hotel where you can't touch that person there. I wonder if we're heading to such a volatile world that there may be something like that in reality. Again, I go back to family offices were originally designed. Let's go with for capital preservation, long-term growth, and multi-generational continuity in a relatively stable world, economics, political landscape. That world no longer exists.
Yeah.
Now we're going to spend more time on AI soon, so I'm not going to weave that quite into your answer or my answer yet, but trust me, and for the audience, that is coming. Jan, I'll give it back to you.
Many things, and it's just it just underscores just these opener for our discussion today. That these geopolitical uncertainties are by and large the main driver for the main question for each family to answer: do we want to become a sovereign family, or do we want to have that entropy will take place on our family table and we will disappear over the next generations? Because, and that is just my perspective also on this, these wealth transfer, what we are facing now, these largest wealth transfer in history, is also bringing a huge dynamic on this entropy issue in many families, where there are a great transfer of assets and wealth will take place from one generation to the next. And I would say there is a huge chance that many families will collapse through these wealth transfer. And if I say that these wealth transfer and this kind of sum, what we see is just the first, the second is waiting around the corner, and it will be much bigger, what we are seeing now. And the question is more also, and I would be curious and interested to hear your view on this. Just, and I ask myself often, what kind of architecture a family actually needs to become a sovereign family? What kind of main pillars should be implemented, should be take place? Yes, we talk a lot of about governance and all this stuff, but to be honest, I mean, governance is by and large ask 10 people what is governance actually, and probably you will get more than 20 or 30 responses what their vision and perspective on governance actually is. And I would say these families need fewer processes on governance and stuff like that. They need just an architecture, what they can build up their own family house on. And I will give you just a question to you. Can you describe this for me and also for the audience today? What is your bird view on this architecture plan of a sovereign family? What are the main pillars from your perspective?
Well, it goes back what we spoke about in purpose and intent. It goes back to the time the family spends with the rising generation, the value that they're providing. Just because you have the money doesn't mean giving them everything, sending them to the best private schools, etc., is going to lead to the best outcomes. You're almost looking to outsource the raising, quote unquote, of your children, your grandchildren. That is never going to work. I agree with you. We've been discussing shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in three generations for since forever, since Jay Hughes probably, I believe, was the initiator of that as we know it, at least in the US back 50 years ago. Now, there's others that disagree with that concept now. I'm willing to listen to them. I've read some of the research, and I might agree that to randomly assume that 90% of families by the end of the third generation are just going to totally collapse appears to be extreme. But their purchasing power, the vast majority of them will dissipate. Now, this could go down to a wealth preservation versus wealth creation discussion. To make the rising generations paralyzed to move forward, only in fear, only trusting gatekeepers and outside advisors, and never learning how the world works, how to roll up their sleeves, how to negotiate, how to buy companies, how people lie to you, and how you have to recover from that, how you have to be resilient are challenges. We want to encourage those that with education, they could decide what they want to do in their adulthood, but educating them about the importance of the things that we're talking about is very important. If a family doesn't have some internal wealth creators and you passing on your knowledge and connections is like the most powerful thing that you could do,
Yes.
it's going to be very, very hard for the family to maintain their position that they may have now as the generations go on. I know what my eyes tell me. I don't care as much about maybe what conflicted research is showing academics. You travel the world, you're in the Middle East, me too. We go around the world, we see and we hear stories, what worked and what didn't work. So by architecture, some of it is still intent and purpose and mindset. Some of it may be the hard things from structuring foundations, trust, LLCs, intertwining corporations for tax advantages, global diversity, family office structures in the US following lender versus the IRS for certain tax advantages. Private trust companies can be awesome. But you're also correct. We're adding lots of layers, lots of complexity. Sometimes that's needed, sometimes it's overkill.
Yes.
Uh, what is the word Occam's razor that I'm looking for? Kind of the simplest solution, but no simpler. We could always add to it. Adding to structures and complexity is organically going to happen over time for a variety of reasons. Now, AI is going to be impactful and beneficial in many ways to this, and maybe that's the next segment where we'll jump into a little bit. But in one of my videos I recently did, in further answering your question, I did ask over the last year, getting feedback kind of from let's call it the elders, what is your family office for? And like I said in some of my recent videos, pretty traditional answers. We deem it to be for privacy and control, deal access, expertise, patient capital, privacy, bespoke services. But when you ask the rising generation, now that's a funky word. I could be a 93-year-old elder creator, my rising generation 72.
Mhm.
So I'm usually meeting people that are going to be under 30. What you're getting is, but I could access a lot of venture like deals on AngelList and newer platforms these days. I get more sophisticated analysis from AI tools. I could hire on demand experts globally for certain tax and estate structures. In other words, why do I really need a family office? Is it that good? Is the structure that perfect? Is the talent that awesome? Now, we don't want to get too far off track, Jan, but the best family offices do one thing brilliantly, and maybe that one thing is enough: hire incredible people. Do you think the average family office does that? Of course not. They don't. Now, they also don't incentivize, motivate, and integrate the potential of such top tier talent. A group of Spartans, a small group of Spartans has defeated armies in the past.
Absolutely.
So you need excellence. You need to say, I don't want to be average. I have a program coming out next year called the Top 1% Family Office. I'm actually going to tease part of it out today and tomorrow in some of my programming. Why don't you want to be incredible? Now, I look at the greatness of a Pele, of a Michael Jordan, in American football, a Tom Brady. They were obsessed with success. You could argue maybe it impacted their personal lives negatively. When you want to be the best, maybe well above a top 1%, you need to want to feel it and be obsessed by it the same way that you want to breathe.
Yeah.
You have to be that way.
Yes.
That's very, very important. And I'm thinking that the rising generation, we're not kind of giving them enough credit. Yeah, there's problems I see with them. Trust me, Jan, we could go on and on. But I'm seeing a level of intelligence, education, more AI native fluidity, and understanding that maybe our current model really is just mediocre or not that good. Therefore, maybe it's an existential crisis for the family office world, for the executives with the rising generation upcoming. You have to always work on your skills, which impact your utility and your capability to be the best version of yourself, whether a family member or an executive that you could possibly be. And I do feel the future of family offices is somewhat in peril because the rising generation, I think I'm putting a good onus, a burden on them, is going to want to demand more, more. And AI is going to be a big, big part of that. Jan?
I'm fascinating from your thoughts, and I'm completely with you. And what I often raise is just the question is, and it is just maybe it could be changed over the next couple of months and years. Why we are have these perspective on one hand on the family office, on the other hand to the family. My view on this is just if we come to this topic back on the sovereign family, we are not discussing only the family office and the family. We are integrating the family office into the family. Because in my interpretation, the main purpose of the family office itself is just to enhance the life of the entire family with the financial assets. And I agree totally with you, maybe that that's your argument that very, very few family offices do this in this way. They are very focused on preserving the capital or maybe a little bit of growing the capital. And I found this fascinating. You mentioned this in one of your latest videos, that the new generation or the rising generation is not more focused on only preserving the capital. Yes, preserving, yes, but also growing. And they're a little bit of an conflict what they are facing. And that brings me to the question, how can AI solve these kind of conflicts? Is it just only as an instrument, as a tool to make it simpler, to make it easier? Or could be AI just also a bridge from the family office itself into the family and work with a new governance tool to enhance, improve the governance on both sides? Could be this a solution to build up a strong foundation for a sovereign family?
In short, yes. And don't even get me wrong what I said before. There's some incredibly talented people servicing in the community and some wonderfully talented executives that often get discouraged by maybe the lack of big goal thinking and the opportunity to bring out the best in them. It just gets to be comfortable. At the end of the day, we had a president uh, that said, the buck stops here. It's on me. At the end of the day, the family is responsible for the success of their family office. If they happen to have the wrong people, then make a decision to move on, to change. Your people might even be more talented than you think. You're not holding them to clearly understanding what are our goals and how are we going to get there. Now, part of what you described or asked, we did discuss last week, so I'll try not to be too repetitive. And it also spoke about the value internally of a chief learning officer, which Christian Stewart, Jay Hughes, and others have spoken about, and they're 100% correct. But to only limit the challenges in families to areas around governance, very important. Investing, taxation, estate, geopolitical issues, risk management, those are very important too. And sometimes people from the other aspect of governance tend to downplay those a little bit, and they have really no knowledge of it and how it integrates into the real world reality of the family and the family office. So, back a little bit to AI. Some of your audience may know my extreme focus and interest in AI, going back 2 years ago, but really in the last year. And as someone who created multiple modules around an AI family office and has spent the money internally, gone through it, made mistakes, and spends hours and hours a day. I can't believe that I technically just this month in October created my own app. I actually used a European company, a Swedish company called Lovable, and it provided me, without knowing how to code, the opportunity. Took a little longer than I would like, but it's getting better every day. And Lovable's not the only one. Bolt.new, N8N, there's so many others. These incredible technologies are allowing us to do things that were completely and utterly impossible, like even a year ago. Now, what that's going to do to some public companies, what that's going to do to SaaS companies, what that's going to do to certain fintech and services that family offices use now that are sometimes archaic, expensive, and complex. And now family offices are going to be able to do more of this themselves. And no one, with maybe the exception of in your backyard, Francois Beautois, I feel that no one is talking about this. Like, I almost wonder if some of them are conflicted. They're just not talking about it. As we get older, part of the challenges and maybe being over 40 is sometimes we do let natural human emotions of ignorance, ego, and fear get in our way of personal growth and excellence in terms of what we need to do. Like I said, ChatGPT just came about under 3 years ago as we're recording this. Now, intelligence is far more than IQ, but it's believed to be that in certain standardized testing, the ChatGPT can have an IQ as high as like 146. Einstein was 160. Now, Einstein had intelligence that was beyond more structured limits of IQ testing. I understand that. But the IQ when ChatGPT first came out might have been something like 100. So what happens is energy production gets better, technology is advancing. Look, Nvidia shot up by far to be the largest company in the world. Amazing. Who would have thought that a couple of years ago?
Yes.
In other words, listening to Nvidia's Jensen Huang, if it doubles every 6 months and compounds, that could be 64x after 3 years. We're going to hit a point relatively soon, I don't know, a year and a half, when the IQ might be 3 to 400, and then eventually thousands, and then immeasurable. Now, it's not a biological creature as we know it, but is it going to be effectively the smartest thing on Earth? Now, we could get into AGI, we could get into artificial superintelligence, maybe discussions for a little bit of a different time. The future of humanity, lots of questions, Jan. What's going to happen when it creates working fusion energy? Robotics are easily going to be, Wall Street says, a $5 trillion industry by 2050. Wall Street was very wrong about NVIDIA, very wrong about AI. They're behind the times and they're wickedly wrong about robotics. It will be much bigger, much bigger, much bigger than 5 trillion. So lots of opportunities for families to invest properly and make money. But they get caught up in listening to advisors, to Wall Street, to people that are living in yesterday's world, and the world simply has changed and they're not adapting. So AI is a new form of intelligence, almost where energy, because that's what it really needs, effectively equates to intelligence. A family or a family office could do more with less. That scares some people. More with less, better and faster. I've seen it because I've been a part of consulting and working with it. I've seen $1 or $200 million family offices with a team of two or three using some of the AI protocols, techniques, recommendations that myself and select others may make, be able to be much more effective and wickedly more efficient and faster than multi-billion-dollar family offices. Better governance, better risk management, better investment returns, and not even really that hard. Now, we don't want to make this an AI masterclass. People could follow my content and get further information on that. But I will leave a couple of tips before we maybe segue a little bit. AI is far deeper than just OpenAI's ChatGPT, but I like ChatGPT 5 too. You should learn multiple of the platforms. Grok, Anthropic, European company, wonderful, especially on writing. Gemini, and there's others. But you're using commercial platforms, family office. What does that mean? You don't really own it, you rent it. It also means if you have proprietary knowledge that you're feeding into the system, that you're training the system, you're helping it learn, you're helping others. In other words, you're bleeding IP. That doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And for certain things, for relatively low cost, free to $20, $200 a month, it's kind of incredible. But be a little careful. If you're a family office, you may need to understand sovereign AI means taking control. What hardwares do I need to have to run my own AI, open source platforms, Llama, there's multiple others that are more limited in their scope relative about certain things I'm looking to enhance and get data points in within the family office to help it output the data that I need to make better decisions. Therefore, it's not touching the cloud. I'm owning and controlling it. Now, inevitably, AI needs to do more than just chat. And this is where, well, robotics and others may come into play soon. This is where AI agents come into play that could actually take actions. So, in taking it a little bit to the home stretch, AI provides incredible resources at your fingertips. You better learn how to use it, multiple different platforms. You better learn how to prompt engineer. You can't just accept the first answer. You have to know how to work with it to extract the best out of it, to have them compete against each other. But you better learn the right hardware to have your own sovereign system, especially if you're someone with proprietary, unique ideas and knowledge. And as a family office with maybe a history that goes back a proprietary deal flow and information that is unique to you, that gives you an edge. You do not want to bleed that by training the system for others. The use of the right AI with AI agents means your 40-hour a week family office, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, you could actually be 168 hours a week. That is 24/7. You start small. I understand that. But the opportunity for integrating AI, sovereign AI, the right hardware and programs, understanding how to integrate from vibe coding to especially AI agents, and weaving this together to do more with less, better, and faster, it absolutely can make an impact on governance. It certainly makes an impact on investing, on taxes and estate, on risk management. It's like having kind of a team of PhDs at your fingertips that could sometimes give you the answers in seconds, maybe minutes. And there you are ignoring it. There you are being ignorant and fearful. That's not going to help you. It's not going to preserve your job. Become the best version of yourself. Learn how to integrate technology and use AI. You're going to be employable. You're going to be valuable for years to come. Now, yes, we could have a deeper discussion. What happens in 7 years and 10 years? Well, that may get a little bleak before it gets interesting. But aren't I better being the best version of myself and using it now, making money, being employable, building up resources, owning assets? So if things do get a little weird in 5 or 10 years, when there's a massive loss of jobs, you'll be more prepared. But you putting your head in the sand is not going to help that. There is nothing that AI at the moment, let alone 6 months from now, there is nothing that the right utilization of AI will not make you and your family office better on today. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I am 60 years old. I am not naturally tech and AI savvy. I can't really even know how to properly code my thing from my TV to change channels easily. But I learned. I put in the time, hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I got really good at understanding AI, at building apps, at creating AI agents, at integrating, at iterating, at making mistakes, at wasting money. Now, in the future, we'll save this for some time in the future, but I'll leave it out there for the audience to ponder. Maybe a little more applicable for now to US audiences, but Trump passed an act, the Genius Act and others, that really allows and may address the US's issue, still wanting to be the dominant currency on the world with stable coins and stable coins being pegged to the US dollar. Stable coins allow anyone from anywhere around the world to integrate with their AI agents 24/7, trading in global markets. When you're sleeping, it's working. Not with dollars, but with stable coins, which are going to be pegged to the dollar. In this example, it could be pegged to other resources as well. Now, part of this is going to depend on what platform, what country. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but you could today imagine what it's going to be in 6 months, create a 24/7, maybe for 1% of your resources, tiny, a 24/7 trading machine in the world of certain stocks, cryptos, and eventually we're going to have the tokenization of real world assets. Everyone, the world is changing. I may want the old world back as well. I kind of loved parts of the 70s and 80s. You wishing that is not going to make that happen. We have to work with what we got and be the best that we could in it. I also want you to be employed. I want you to be of value. I want you as a rising generation to be impactful in your family. And you know the things I'm talking about, which are going to be more fluid with you and touch your heart a little better, is just the reality of how the world is now. And Jan, I just don't see a little bit of Francois and some others. I just don't see people that are living through it, learning it, talking about it with a level of intellect and rigor and experience. I think the industry has their head in the sand. And honestly, I think I'm miles, kilometers ahead of them. And it doesn't mean I'm better. A lot of them are smarter than me. I just took action and I worked really, really hard.
It's always fascinating to hear your views and your thoughts, Angelo, and I'm absolutely with you. And what brings me to our final question for today, and it just can you give me just can you imagine there's someone in the audience, let's call it this way, a rising gen or next gen, to consider to implement AI, but don't have any clue uh, what is it actually means. Yes, there are knowledge available from you and maybe from other few resources, but he or she face the question, okay, what actually my cost of inaction? If I don't act now, what actually make this example, they are a family of 500 million euros or dollars. I mean, in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What is your estimation? What are the costs of inaction today if you don't move on to consider, to implement, to figure out how AI can improve your family's dynamic, your family's cohesion, your family's office competitiveness in all directions. Can you give me just in estimation on this kind of number?
The rising generation is going to have to wake up and speak up. They've been a little bit more inherently fluid in some of the things I'm talking about recently, from whatever broadly crypto to AI. They understand that the genie's not going back in the bottle. They understand ChatGPT is not even 3 years old. They understand the IQ, as however quasi-limited that might be, is enhancing rapidly and will blow us out of the water relatively soon. They understand we're in a world where one day in 20 years, we're going to wake up. Listen to this. We're going to wake up after an 8 hour sleep and like 100+ years of progress was made. That's both scary, terrifying, and a little bit exciting. We are living through an interesting time, assuming we don't have a nuclear war and blow everything up. Who knows? The world that created the wealth is one that no longer resembles the reality of one that's going to create it or preserve it moving forward. And I think, although the elders may want to encourage the rising generation, they are going to have to be the ones who step up. Now, I said earlier, I've been a thought leader, obviously, in the world of AI and family offices. I've offered my ebook, 150 plus pages, that I wrote in August and I revamped 2 weeks ago, because what a surprise, after 2 months, so much has changed. I'm already thinking about the next rewrite. But stop waiting. You're waiting for perfection that will never happen. You're losing out on the compounding effects of getting in early. And my ebook, which gives away for nothing, I'm going to maybe Kindle it early first quarter and an update and charge a couple of dollars. But right now it's effectively free. Jan, I talk about it. I sent it to 40,000 people on my list. I got 40 people that said, okay, Angelo, send it over. 40 out of me reaching multiple tens of thousands. I don't know, ego, ignorance, and fear, not accepting reality, not wanting to be great, how this is going to make you great and employable. It's obviously something important, but it's just not touching the antiquated and slow world of the family office world. Don't you be that way as a family. Don't you be that way as an executive. At least educate yourself and then decide to do nothing. Like, It may be a boring read, especially a PDF format, but read my 150 pages. Just ask me for it. And of course, after I updated it 2 weeks ago, it's already a pitch outdated, but it's way better than anything else you're getting with AI meets the family office world. And that's what it is. 10 things you could do now with AI in your family office. It's very, very specific. I'm not naturally a great writer, but I am good at turning out content very quickly and not thinking about it. I take action fast. So again, oh, your competitors, your peers, they're so slow. And by the way, most of you, you're too slow. Too slow. You gotta move quick. You gotta be faster. You just have to ask me for it, and so few of you have. I don't know. Like, Jan, I'm probably not hyper likable. I'll admit that. Who cares? Who
Right,
cares whether I'm
right,
likable or not?
right.
Do I have something that could provide value to you that I'm giving you for free? Oh, one more on top of it. This Sunday live, this past Sunday, just a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
I did 4 segments totaling 4.5 hours on AI. I did 2 blocks in the morning, two at night. It's technically still up in my LinkedIn, X, and mainly my at family office on YouTube. I didn't get that many downloads for it. Now, I admit it again, it can be a little boring even though it's more visual than reading, of course, I understand that. That 4.5 hours is way more than anything else combined with my book. Oh my God, it's not even close. Way more out there on the value of AI for family offices than anything. And again, I emailed it Monday to 40,000 people, and I don't know, maybe a couple of hundred opened it. How many really watched or read the ebook? Maybe, I'm being generous, maybe 10 or 20% of all those numbers, the edge that you're going to get because everyone is not doing it. Now, yes, I don't want to sell my AI masterclass, but on my website, all those things are up there. And hopefully, on you and I are going to do a little project in Europe. So I do want to take this and travel the world. I want to go to incredible destinations and bring families in, forget 2 days, maybe 3 or 4 days. Do a total immersion with me and a dream team and yourself. So lots of ideas are spinning that are going to be applicable. But in the meantime, getting my free book and videos, I don't make a penny on it. And I put many, many hours into the planning of it. No excuse. The information is out there now. Uh, Alex Hermosi, who many in the audience would know, he's one of the world's, if not the world's greatest marketer and author. He talks about violent effort outperforms perfect theory every time. Now, General Patton, a famous US general during World War II, said something kind of similar, and others as well. But I think Alex really nailed it. You taking action, immediate, violent, intense effort outperforms perfect theory. Stop looking for perfection. It will never come. You won't get the growth, the compounding leading into it. You're going to be starting at a very different point if you wait too long. And honestly, you already waited too long. The time to act is now. Jan has incredible resources. I have incredible resources. And again, although we're going to be ending here on AI, if I just go by the past months, what it has shown me, very, very, very few of you are going to reach out, are going to just try to find it online or an email or even go to my LinkedIn or at family office. Like it's all there, or I could just give it to you. Yet somehow you're still fighting it. And that is a grave, grave mistake. Sorry for getting on a soapbox, as we call it, Jan, but I feel very strongly about that. And it's frustrating to me that the industry has been very, very slow to adapt. I know that I'm 100% correct. You could argue my timeline is a little quick. You could argue that you would be wrong, but you could argue that. That's fair. AI is going to be It's underhyped, as I believe it was Mark Andreessen, the famous venture capitalist, stated. Underhyped. All this noise we're hearing, it's still underhyped. It is going to be the control layer for everything. And the current CEO of Google stated as impactful as fire and electricity. Yet you can't take action. You're too busy. You're just too busy. You can't find the time to read and watch, immerse yourself and learn. The 1,000 hours that I put in, I could condense for you in a far shorter amount of time. Jan, enough. At the end of the day, people are going to, again, either take violent action, like I said, or just keep on waiting for perfection in theory that will never come.
Yeah, that's fine. So before we close our session today, Angelo, please provide me the link to your book, and I will put it just in the show notes for our episode today. That also my audience have access to this ebook, and also I will put just these series what you have produced over the weekend also in the show notes, that some of the audience and interested people will have access to. And I mean, it is in most cases spread the word out, and it is also to, I mean, educate some of our colleagues, just advisors, that they have maybe some interest today, but don't have any clue what this actually means. And my closing remark for today, I mean, AI will be last. That will be not gone, right? And it will be an exponential grow on AI. And you and I, we don't have any clue what AI is look like in 10 years or in 5 years or in 2 years, right? And it will be inflect our lives. I mean, everybody's using AI on his smartphone today, even to ask very easy, in some cases, stupid questions, right? To get maybe an intelligent answer on this. But that is just my closing note for today. And I'm looking forward to having third episode together with you on the topic, and maybe that's just an announcement for you in the audience, to make AI just a little more touchable on examples from your experience, what you have used in your own family office, how it works, what kind of results are produced, but also what kind of challenges do you have faced. That I mean, in some cases, we as humans, we have, if we can touch it, or if we can imagine through touching something, we don't have any clue what it actually means. And that would be great if we can do this in our third episode. But for now, it was always a pleasure, Angelo, and let's spread the word out. I have you on my side.
Of course, and maybe a little bit of a quick closing comment from what you said. Jan, you're incredible. You're very talented. It's great to have a business and a friendship. I learned so much from you. As I'm going to share this with my audience, I heavily encourage you to follow Jan on LinkedIn, on X, to reach out to him. He's a wonderful resource. He's based in Europe. He travels the world. He knows a lot of people. He looks at it from a fresh perspective, kind of a true deep thinker and consultant at heart. And I encourage many of you from my audience to expand your relationships with incredibly talented people. Now, currently on, because again, it's kind of basic, although I technically did do it on an online version, I kind of stopped it. Right now, the 10 things to do in AI in your family office is just a good old fashioned, but attractive and long PDF. So it likely is something that, unless I'm missing out on something in technology, that does need to be a reach out through you to me. I'm happy to share it with you if you don't have it. For people to DM me, to email me at angelo@angelorobles.com. The 4 segments I did on an AI transformation totaling well over 4.5 hours. That is easier. Those are 4 specific links. I think Jan has them, but I'll reshare them with him. And again, you don't need to register or sign up for anything. Just click on the links. Now, again, I get it. Watching hours and hours of video without you being immersed and interactive can get boring, but you have to be disciplined to do it, take notes, learn, be motivated to take actions and move forward. So I'm happy to be a resource and help. You'll at minimal get those 4 links that you could share, of course,
Yeah.
Jan,
Yeah.
and people can reach out through you or me for the ebook. But that is a powerful combination, way more impactful than anything that I know in AI meets family offices that's out there. And again, it's getting better and things are adapting rapidly. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to be on.
Many, many thanks, Angelo, for today.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Jan.